All right, hoping everybody can hear me now. It looks like it's about that time, so I will get started. This is our first time doing this in WebEx, so if you see any technical hiccups, let us know, or we'll try to make sure this goes about as smoothly as possible. I will go ahead and jump right in. If you don't know me already, I'm Josh Tenney. I'm content strategist for the CALS LAS web team. My areas of expertise are all things content adjacent, so user experience, user behavior analytics, content organization, and generally all the stuff on your website. Today, I'm going to briefly talk about how we can use Siteimprove to find and correct misspellings, as well as judging readability of written content on each page in a measurable way. We've talked on some of these concepts in previous webinars, but Siteimprove makes them much, much easier for you to review on your sites. So the issues we're addressing here are best seen directly in Siteimprove, so we're going to start with another quick refresher on getting into Siteimprove before we move on to using it for finding misspellings and evaluating content readability. After that, I will show you a few helpful resources outside of Siteimprove, and then we'll move on to Q&A. So let's get into Siteimprove if you haven't yet. Navigate to login.iastate.edu, and if you have the Siteimprove button shown in the image, you can click that and be taken to Siteimprove's interface. Note that it should be the one with the centered icon there if you have to add one or if you have multiple. If you don't see a button for Siteimprove, click on the blue button in the upper right labeled Add Apps, and from there you should be able to find Siteimprove by searching for it in the Search for an App box and adding it to your login.iastate.edu screen. Once added, you can go back to login.iastate.edu and click on the Siteimprove button, as we said. Once you're in Siteimprove, you will see a dashboard. There are several dashboards, and you have options for seeing those dashboards by clicking the dashboard title, such as the CALS LAS website editor title in the image above, and selecting a different one. Your dashboard will probably look something like this once you get to it, with some slight possible variations. You'll see quick measures of things like accessibility, broken links, misspellings, and more. This is perfect because it gives us a great place to start talking about misspellings. Sorry, had to be done. There's not much more I can tell you about why misspelled words on your site are bad. They hurt credibility of your site and its content, and any reader who stumbles on a misspelling, especially an obvious one, is going to think a little less of your site. Whether it hurts their perceptions of your professionalism, the accuracy of the information itself, or just sort of a general lack of care on the part of website owners. Worse yet, for important terms, it can harm your appearance in search engines if Google fails to recognize a relevant search term for what it is. That said, if you have a lot of content on your site, it's easy to miss a few, and Siteimprove will make it a lot easier to seek them out. So I'm going to switch to my browser real quick to demo for you in Siteimprove. We'll stop share there and switch over. All right, so hopefully what you're seeing now, here, and actually let me make sure that's working correctly. All right, so hopefully you are seeing my CALS LAS web editor screen here in Siteimprove. And we're seeing just a few of these things across the front like I talked about. So if you see this, you can go ahead and go to misspellings. If you don't, you can find it in quality assurance over here. So let's go ahead and click on misspellings. Now on our site, which I'm using here as the help sites, which hopefully you've used before, has our tutorials and stuff for our platform if you're one of our users. We've only got one here, and this one was organic. I didn't plant this specifically for you to find it, so this will be one I'll fix after we're done with this presentation. We make mistakes too. So what you can see here is it's showing what the word that it's perceiving as a misspelling is. We're under this misspellings tab. And yeah, that looks like something that we didn't mean to have there. But it's a good idea to check these things in context, especially if you're not completely sure if it would make sense in context. And you can do that by clicking on this little pages pop out here. What it will do is it will show you all the pages where that misspelled word appears. To check this out, I'm going to go ahead and click right here. It's going to take me to the page where it detected this error. And now what we're going to see is it's actually highlighted that. If you can see it here, it's obviously a pretty small misspelled word, but it's highlighted it on the page, and it's telling me a little bit more about why it's important to fix misspellings. And it's giving me the opportunity to approve this if I approve the word, as opposed to marking it as a misspelling. So from this interface, we're not getting a way to fix it per se. You're still going to need to go log into the site and make the edit yourself, and then eventually Siteimprove will crawl the page and find the misspelling and remove it. And now that it's not detecting any issues, but basically this is almost the entirety of the misspellings interface. If you have multiple misspellings on a single page, you'll see a few other occurrences here. So you'll have the option to click those, and it will take you directly to them. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and switch back to this view. So this isn't the only place to look at misspellings. They also have this needs review tab up here, which isn't directly hurting your scores so much until you confirm what the issue is. So here we can actually see that they did flag one that they think is a high probability of misspelling, and they're right. Dashboard is not a thing, so we need to go check that out. And I'll make the same process. The only difference here at all is just that it doesn't know whether this is truly a misspelling or not. And in this case, I have the option for a decision on this issue to approve the word or mark it as a misspelling, so it moves over to that other category. So I'm going to go ahead and apply that here. If I had multiple instances of this word, like if I had 3 different pages with dashboard on them, I can set it so that it marks it as a misspelling for the entire site. I've only got one, so it doesn't matter here. I'm going to go ahead and apply that decision. So that is now a misspelling. And if I go back and refresh this, you should see that have moved over. So now it's also in the misspellings. Under needs review, though, you're sure to find some that are actually not misspellings, and that's where you've got this little approval button, which you also have, as I showed you in the sort of view when you're looking at the actual site. So your site name, this looks like something that we made a mistake on, but if I go look at it, we'll see that we use this as a placeholder to indicate people who need to put in their net ID for their site name URL. So I can actually go ahead and say, no, this is an approved word. We'll say for the entire site and apply that decision. And now once I go back here, it should remove that from the needs review. So as you can see here, we've got several names, a few other URLs, things like that, that I can go through and approve and sort of clear out this queue of words that need review. And once you've approved a word, it will appear here. So if you accidentally approved a word, or if you approved a word that's no longer should be in use, you can go over here and see what those words are. You can remove them and say, no, we don't want to approve those on the site anymore, so that it begins flagging them again for the future. That is basically all there is for the misspellings. What's helpful is that we're in the right place to talk about readability, because that's also under the Q&A menu here. But I'm going to hop back to the slideshow just for a moment to talk a little bit more. Let me stop this share and switch back. All right, hopefully you're seeing my PowerPoint again. On to readability. So on readability, most of us think of readability as sort of an imprecise or subjective concept. We know that it's important to have clear writing that can be easily parsed, but we tend to think of it as something that we need to put in front of your office's resident English major or communication specialist as the only way to improve. Surprisingly, there are measures of readability that can be automated and flagged for review. Siteimprove grades your readability primarily by measuring its Flesch-Kincaid grade level, and it takes every page on your site and assigns it a number. I'll talk a little bit about that number here before you see it in Siteimprove, because it gets rid of some of the mystery. These numbers are designed to map directly to an equivalent US grade school level. So you can see that image on the right that shows what those numbers map to. It's pretty straightforward. Siteimprove chooses to max out their table at 14, which is college sophomore level, but the measure can technically go higher, and it will show as higher in the report tables on Siteimprove. The reason that the score can be calculated automatically is that it's derived from the total number of words, sentences, and syllables on a given page. Under this model, more words, longer sentences, and words with more syllables are considered more complex. They have a higher cognitive load, a higher interaction cost, and are harder for readers to scan for relevant information. Now, I'd say that most university audiences are surprised to learn that this doesn't let them off the hook when a score comes back at college level. You can say, oh, my audience is undergraduates or even graduates, but the fact is that just because a person can comprehend, for example, a graduate level research paper, it doesn't mean that this is the kind of writing that they want when browsing the internet for general information. Broadly speaking, none of us enjoy reading highly complex sentences all day long, especially when we're looking for relatively simple pieces of information. So my recommendation is that you should aim for around a grade of 8 for your pages. Site chooses to recommend grade 10, but I would say this is on the high end for the general population. The average reading level is usually between 7 and 9 for the US. However, if your site maxes out at grade 10 and you have no pages above that, you're probably doing pretty well. For reference, Harry Potter is roughly in the 6 to 8 range, which is actually less constraining than you may think. So let's hop back to Site Improve and look at how this shows up. All right, so from here, if you want to get to that readability section, we can do that by clicking on this readability tab on the left-hand sidebar. And I'll quickly go look at the readability test results and show you just kind of what this table comes up looking like. So this is showing you the makeup of reading level across all of your pages on your site. For this one, we're doing pretty good. It's got a maximum of a high school sophomore reading level. So that is a grade 10. And it's showing me I can look at those by grade level to see which ones are falling into those buckets. So if I want to see all of the ones at the top for high school sophomore, it's our FAQ, user roles, horizontal line, and it actually is showing me total words, how many polysyllabic words, so words with multiple syllables in it, are on that page, and how many sentences. So that's telling me a little bit how they came to this grade. And for example, this one has very few words on it, so I may not read into the grade there as much. But this probably isn't the best place to start making your way through fixing readability on your pages. So let's go ahead and click this Pages button under Readability. And what this page is going to do is it's going to show you all of your pages on your site from the highest grade level to the lowest. So that way you can start from where it's worst, so to speak, and move down. When you click on one of these pages, you're going to get the same sort of interface that we saw before. So as I said before, our FAQ is one of the higher reading levels. So let's go ahead and click on that. And it's going to take me to another one of these overlays where we can see things in real time on the site. So what it's showing me is it's showing me the same information we had before, the grade level. It's allowing me to look at how many polysyllabic words are there. So if we're seeing words that are extremely difficult, which is calling words with 6 or more syllables, we can highlight where those are. So we've got like websites as a service, as a hyphenated word is showing up. We've got a few email addresses. Nothing's jumping out at me here as being too worrisome on this page. There's kind of the nature of having a sort of technical site that has a few of these words that I don't think I probably have alternatives for. But if I did, it would be good to note, okay, maybe I can find a simpler synonymous word that's a little shorter and will help things out more. Now, I'm going to go back, click this arrow here to go back to see, we can also highlight unique long sentences. So this is going to flag difficult sentences on the page, and I would personally consider this probably a higher priority than finding difficult words, unless there's a particularly difficult word, because breaking up sentences or shortening sentences tends to be a little easier to do from an editorial standpoint. So this one is marking an extremely difficult sentences. It's finding at least 2 here with more than 40 words. So again, if I click these, it'll jump to them for me. And yeah, I think I looked at this one before. So units like those above can request a Sites Plus website from us by emailing web support, and we will schedule a consultation, so on, so on. So if I were seeing this now, I would probably go ahead and add a period here after web support and remove the and that will shorten both sentences considerably. It will make it easier to scan the page a little bit for information. So it seems like a small change, but once you do that a few times, especially on a page that's not quite so broken up or has a long, lengthy block of text, all these little changes start to make a big difference in the readability of the page, and it will change your report, your score, quite a bit as a result. Now, as I said, this page is at grade 10 reading level. I'm also judging personally things like, oh, it's really broken up, we have a lot of headings. Those are also things that are making it easy to read that aren't being caught in the Flesch-Kincaid score, so I'm probably not super concerned about this page, especially since it came back at a 10, but I could go in, and I probably will after this seminar, and change a few of these to break up some of the longer sentences. So that's really all there is to the readability section of Siteimprove. If I go back to this, you can see that, yeah, there's a few that are really short that I'm not going to worry too much about, and how deep they are in the page. That's really about it. So I would be mistaken to not at least talk about a couple of the other readability qualities that are not covered in Siteimprove. So I'm going to go ahead and switch back to my PowerPoint for the last time here and just quickly talk about a couple of those. All right. So Flesch-Kincaid grades are not the only important readability factor. They are just the easiest to measure. Different audiences require different writing styles. An audience of fresh high school grads probably expects different types of language than an audience of PhD researchers. You want to avoid jargon in text that will be seen by general audiences. So if you've got words that are really specific to your industry, but you're posting this for potential undergraduate applicants, probably want to remove some of those or at least expand them so that they're a little more readable. I also like to specify that you should be using keywords that your audience will find more likely to search in a search engine. So the proverbial example is to think used cars, not pre-owned vehicles. You might call them pre-owned vehicles in the industry, but when people are searching for them, they're going to search for used cars. And lastly, I've gone over this in much more detail in a previous webinar, but I should mention, like I said before about that FAQ page, you want to chunk text using headings, short paragraphs, and lists. This is the kind of stuff that won't come across in that Siteimprove score, but it will improve readability. It will help people get through your site and probably help your traffic ratings for how long people stay on the page or move on to their actual destination. That's all I've really got for the meat of the webinar, but I do have a few resources. A bit of self-promotion at the top here. There's a closely related information and related to what I've discussed here in one of my previous webinars called How People Read Your Website. It goes into a lot more detail on the chunking, scanning, and generally sort of the psychology of how people use the content they encounter on the web, but it has none of the Siteimprove components, so it's not going to help you there. I also list Hemingway Editor. It's helpful because, unfortunately, while Siteimprove is showing you really complicated sentences, it's not giving you the opportunity to go in and edit those and then immediately see how it grades your new sentences. So Hemingway Editor essentially does the same thing. It's just an app that you can either install or you can use on your browser. And I recommend, if you have already chosen, you've got a page full of content that you want to make some readability edits to, copy that all into Hemingway Editor and make those edits in real time to see your grade sort of improve in real time there, and then you can put that information back onto the page once you've made the edits you want. We've also got a Purdue OWL link on eliminating wordiness. They have some cool exercises that show sort of sentences that honestly we kind of typically see, and then examples of what those would look like if we shortened them or broke them up into smaller pieces. And finally, I've just got a link for the Flesch-Kincaid reading score information. If you wanted to read a little bit more about how that's derived, how you actually generate that final calculation, you can find that information there. And thanks for listening. I will take some questions now. Hopefully I stuck close to 20 minutes. All right, let's go take a look. I thought I saw something come through here, so. So we have a question from Amy Lumen. Can ISU sites be used for department websites? Yeah, that's one of the things we do. Actually, that's the FAQ question I was answering on that page. So you can reach out to websupport@istate.edu. For ISU sites, that's our faculty sites. You cannot just spin up one of those. If you want us to host a department website, it's a similar platform, but you need to reach out to us at websupport.istate.edu, and we will meet with you to discuss your needs and get it set up for you. So that is a thing we can do, but you don't use sites.istate.edu to create that, if that makes sense. Okay, and actually this is a good question that I meant to address. Zach Clemens asked, this is my first time logging into Siteimprove. How do I get websites added to my dashboard? Same process and actually Christy added, extension folks, if they're reaching out, should not contact websupport@istate.edu. They should contact extensionweb@istate.edu. But for Zach, for us, since I know you're one of ours, reach out to websupport@iastate.edu, say what websites you need added, and like Christy said, extension folks should reach out to her at Extension Web, and we will get the website added to your relevant account. So that's just a thing we can do for you, and I expect there's probably a few others who need the same process. Any other questions? Feel free to use the chat or Q&A, whatever's easiest for you. I'll just give you a minute here. Yeah.
Oh, I was just going to hop in real quick and say that I'm looking at the attendees and I got an email because Carla kindly pointed out that it must have been the wrong invite that we sent that I attached when we sent this originally. So we're low on numbers today. I will send another email with this recording. So if you have coworkers or people that you know that missed this because of that error, please let them know that it is recorded, and I'll go ahead and send a follow-up email so that everybody has the recording. And I'm so sorry. There was two, and I must have sent the wrong one. So I just wanted to note that.
Okay. If I'm not seeing any questions, I'll thank everybody again for coming and listening to me talk, and we'll plan on having another one of these in 3 weeks. I think it's still the plan. What was the next one going to be? I don't have the schedule in front of me. Could probably tell them. Anne or Christy, do you remember what that was?
I believe we're taking a break until after the first of the year.
Sure.
Is that right, Anne? I think that's the
Sorry,
case.
I have to unmute. Yeah. I think the next one will be after the first of the year, and we've been noting that it may be some refresher, at least that first one after the new year. So if you know of people who haven't been able to join regularly, or you're like me, would want a refresher, that's probably what the first one will be, and then we'll jump right into more webinars like the one Josh just gave today.
Cool. Well, that's good to know. In that case, I wish everyone who's listening a Happy New Year. All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.